The letter that would
Is this
destroy
yours?
everything sat at the
Yes,
bottom
give
of
it
Natalie
back.
Ashford's
Only if
bag.
you say please.
She'd been avoiding it for
Please.
3 days. Now at 10:47 on a Tuesday night, sitting in a fluorescent-lit laundromat while her 8-year-old daughter slept against the wall, Natalie couldn't run from it anymore. The industrial washing machines hummed at a frequency that made her molars ache. 14 minutes left on the rinse cycle. Then the dryer. Then home. Then 4 hours of sleep before the alarm screamed and the whole exhausting cycle started again. Cora was curled on her backpack, small for her age, dark hair falling across her face. The rise and fall of her chest was the only thing in this harsh light that still made sense. 18 months since Thomas collapsed in their kitchen. Heart attack at 40. No warning, just gone between the morning coffee and their daughter's cereal spill. Natalie had sold the house, downsized to a 2-bedroom apartment, learned to bake bread at 3 a.m. because Ashford's bakery was all she had left of the life they'd planned. Thomas had dreamed of it since they were teenagers. She'd made it real after he died because the alternative was drowning in grief. Her phone buzzed. Griffin Hayes, her late husband's business partner. Need to talk, tomorrow, important. She didn't respond. Griffin had been distant since Thomas died, sold his partnership stake 6 months ago, said he needed a fresh start. Fine. She needed a lot of things too. The bell above the glass door chimed, sharp, discordant. A man walked in, not walked, moved, with the kind of deliberate precision that made you notice. He carried a dark leather duffel that didn't belong in a place like this. Younger than her, early 30s, dark hair, sharp jaw, black t-shirt and jeans that probably cost more than her rent. His eyes swept the room once, cataloging, assessing, seeing everything. He selected the washing machine 3 down from hers, set the bag down with mathematical care, pulled out clothes already folded, sorted them into 3 precise piles. Darks, lights, delicates. Natalie watched from the corner of her eye, the way he counted each item, measured the detergent exactly, set a timer on his watch instead of using the machine's countdown. Control freak. Or someone who needed order in chaos. She understood that more than she wanted to admit. He sat diagonal from her, pulled out a tablet, started scrolling through spreadsheets. Perfect posture. Even at 11 p.m. in a laundromat, he looked exactly where he was supposed to be. Natalie turned back to her disaster. The laundry basket mocked her. Too tangled. Too much, like everything else. She reached in, grabbed something, pulled. A bra strap caught on Cora's jean zipper. She tugged. It tightened, pulled harder. The fabric stretched. God damn it, whispered. Not enough to wake Cora, just enough to crack her fragile composure. You'll need to help me separate these. The words escaped before she could stop them. Half joke, half plea. The kind of thing you say when you're too exhausted to care who hears you break. The man looked up, their eyes met. His were dark, almost black, analytical. They didn't just see you, they read you, filed you away. He stood, walked to her basket, didn't ask permission, just reached into the mess with steady hands, found the caught strap immediately, followed the tension, unhooked it in 3 movements, held up the pale pink garment, examined it, set it carefully on the metal table. The friction from denim compromises the elastic, he said. Low voice, controlled. You risk color bleed mixing heavy dyes with synthetics. The agitation will destroy anything with lace. Natalie stared at him. Are you seriously giving me laundry advice at 11 o'clock at night? You asked for help separating them. It was a joke. It was accurate. He reached back into the basket, started sorting, darks left, lights right, delicates middle. Your current method creates unnecessary wear and increases permanent damage likelihood. She should stop him, should grab her laundry and move away, protect what little dignity remained. Instead, she asked, do you always talk like a technical manual? I prefer precision. I prefer functional. She pulled a towel from the basket, added it to his dark pile. Right now, functional means getting home before midnight so my daughter can sleep in an actual bed. He glanced at Cora. Something shifted in his expression. Recognition. Understanding what it meant to be responsible for someone smaller than yourself. How old? 8. He nodded once. Then prioritize delicates on gentle. 28 minutes. Towels hot. 35 minutes. General load warm. 32 minutes. You'll be home by 12:15, starting all 3 machines now. Natalie blinked. You just calculated our entire timeline in your head. The math is straightforward. The math is insane. He looked at her then, really looked. And for a second, she saw behind the analytical mask something lonely, something that understood being different. I'm Natalie. Dominic. He held out his hand. She shook it. Firm grip, warm. Contact lasted exactly 2 seconds before he released, maintaining distance. Everything measured. Thank you for the help. You're welcome. He turned back to his tablet. Should have been the end. Two strangers, brief interaction, mutual isolation. But as Natalie shifted to stand, her bag tipped. Contents spilled. Keys, wallet, change. Cora's inhaler, and the letter. Heavy cream envelope. First Fidelity Commercial Bank embossed in the corner. The one destroying everything. Dominic bent down, picked it up before she could reach it. His eyes tracked the visible text through the open flap. His expression shifted. Not concern, recognition. Give that back. Sharper than intended. He held it out, but his eyes stayed on the letterhead. First Fidelity. Yes, my bank. None of your business. The typography induces panic. Flat statement. Heavy cardstock, bold sans serif, red ink for the account number. Automated psychological manipulation. They want you afraid before you read the content. Natalie snatched the envelope, shoved it back. Well, congratulations. It's working. She expected him to drop it, return to his tablet in perfect laundry. Instead, he pulled a business card from his wallet, set it on the table between them. Black mat, minimal text. Marcello Consulting Group, financial recovery specialist. I don't need charity. It's not charity, it's pattern recognition. He tapped the card edge. First Fidelity uses that letterhead for one communication type. Account suspension due to suspected fraud. The timing paperweight envelope quality. It's a freeze notice. Someone's moving money without your authorization. Blood drained from her face. She'd read it once. 3 days ago. Standing in her kitchen while Cora ate breakfast. The words had blurred into legal language she couldn't parse through panic. $42,500. Unauthorized wire transfers. Account frozen, pending investigation. She'd been trying to figure out how to fix it. How to prove innocence. How to keep the bakery open when she couldn't access operating funds. How did you know? I know banks, I know fraud patterns, and I know the look of someone backed into a corner by people speaking a language you don't understand. He pushed the card closer. You need an audit. You need to prove the IP origin didn't come from your network. You need documentation that holds up when they try seizing assets. Natalie looked at the card, at Dominic, at Cora sleeping peacefully. I can't afford a specialist. My accounts are frozen. I'm between projects. My evenings are unstructured. I require problems to solve to maintain baseline function. No emotion, like describing a medical condition. You have a problem, and you just want to solve it. Out of goodness. I don't have a good heart. Met her eyes, unflinching. I have a need for order. Your situation is disordered. I correct structural errors when I encounter them. It should have sounded cold. Instead, it was the most honest thing anyone had said in 18 months. No false sympathy, just transaction. Problem and solution. What do you want in exchange? Workspace access, minimal ambient noise, reliable outlets. Pause. And coffee. Black, 180 degrees, no variation. That's weirdly specific. I'm a weirdly specific person. Natalie almost smiled. I own a bakery. Ashford's on Westbrook. We open at 6. I'll be there at 5:30. That's before we open. I'm aware. I work better before customer noise disrupts focus. He picked up his tablet. Returned to his chair. Conversation over. Dismissed. Filed away in his mental system. Natalie stood holding the card, watching this strange man read spreadsheets like nothing happened. Like he hadn't just offered to save her life for coffee and a quiet table. Her phone buzzed. Griffin. Seriously, we need to talk. It's about the bakery accounts. Ice flooded her veins. Griffin knew about the freeze, how she looked at Dominic, at the card, at Cora trusting her mother would keep them safe, keep the world from collapsing like it had the morning Thomas died. Natalie made a choice. She pulled out her phone, typed, 5:30 tomorrow, Ashford's Bakery, bring your laptop. Sent before she could second guess, before rational thought could catalog all the reasons this was terrible. Accepting help from a stranger, giving access to her business, trusting someone she'd met in a laundromat at 11 p.m. Dominic's phone buzzed. He glanced at the screen, looked up, nodded once, nodded. I'll be there. The machine cycled. Lights hummed, and Natalie Ashford stood holding a business card from a man who spoke like a robot and sorted laundry like his life depended on it. No idea if she just made the best decision of her life or the worst. But she was out of options, out of time, out of everything except desperate hope that maybe precision could save her from chaos. At 28 a.m. Natalie unlocked Ashford's bakery back door with hands shaking from too much coffee and too little sleep. The smell hit immediately. Yeast, sugar, yesterday's cinnamon rolls lingering in industrial ovens. Thomas had loved that smell, said it smelled like home. Now it just smelled like a business she was losing. She flipped lights. The bakery materialized. Small, cramped, perfect. Glass cases lined the counter. Mismatched tables filled the seating area. And in the far corner, tucked beside the emergency exit and good outlet, sat the booth Thomas had claimed as his office, where she'd agreed to let a stranger access her financial records. Natalie walked to storage, pulled out the cardboard box she'd avoided for 3 days. Every piece of paper documentation, receipts, invoices, bank statements, crammed together in no order because she'd been too busy surviving to worry about filing systems. She carried it to the booth, set it down with a heavy thud. Dust puffed into air. She stared, hated that her entire life fit in one falling apart box. The back door opened. Dominic Marcello walked in at exactly 5:30. Same dark jeans, different black shirt, leather bag over one shoulder. In his other hand, a silver travel mug. "You're early," Natalie said. "I'm on time. You're early." "I own the place. I'm always early." He surveyed the bakery with the same analytical sweep, taking in layout, equipment, structural integrity, cataloging everything. "Where's your daughter?" "With my neighbor. Mrs. Chen watches her before school 3 days a week." "You trust her?" Not a question, but Natalie answered. "With my life." Dominic nodded, set his bag on the booth table, looked at the box, opened it, expression unchanged. But Natalie saw his jaw tighten, slightly. The only tell that what he saw bothered him. He pulled out receipts, crumpled, stained with coffee or tears, barely legible. "This filing system is catastrophic." Natalie bristled, exhaustion and fear curdling to anger. "I work 14 hours a day keeping this place alive. I don't have time to alphabetize my existential dread." Regretted it immediately, snapping at the one person who'd offered help. Brilliant. But Dominic didn't react, just set receipts down carefully. Smoothed wrinkles with methodical precision. Looked at her with dark, unreadable eyes. "Where do you keep the coffee?" Caught her off guard. "What coffee?" "Black, 180 degrees." "Right, the exchange, his payment." "I'll make it. How do you—" "I just told you, black, 180 degrees. No variation." "Most people don't specify temperature." "I'm not most people." No, he wasn't. Natalie walked to the commercial espresso machine, the good one Thomas had insisted they buy when they couldn't afford it. Started the process, pulled the shot, steamed water to exactly 180 degrees because apparently that mattered. She brought the mug, set it in front of Dominic. He picked it up, one sip, set it down with the handle positioned at exactly 4 o'clock. "Thank you," then opened his laptop. The real work began. Natalie watched the first hour, the way his fingers moved across the keyboard. Fast but controlled, eyes tracking the screen, scanning, processing, filing information faster than seemed humanly possible. He didn't ask questions, didn't need her to explain chaos, just started building order from wreckage. By 6, first customers arrived. Morning rush. Natalie left Dominic in the booth, worked the counter, sold coffee, bagged pastries, smiled at regulars and lied through her teeth about being fine. 7:15. The door chimed. Sophie walked in. 17, part-time employee, full-time lifeline. "Morning, Mrs. A." She tied on her apron, started prepping the display case. Natalie glanced at the booth. Dominic still there, still working, motionless for 90 minutes except precise keyboard movement. "Who's the guy?" Sophie asked quietly. "Financial consultant." "Since when do we have money for consultants?" "We don't. He's working for coffee." Sophie raised an eyebrow. "Must be really good coffee." 9 o'clock. Morning rush died. Natalie brought Dominic a refill. He'd finished the first cup, set it aside. Handle still at 4 o'clock. Waiting. She poured fresh coffee. Checked temperature. 180 degrees. Set it in front of him. He didn't look up. Just reached for it. Sipped. Set it back. Handle at 4 o'clock. Natalie realized with a strange jolt she'd positioned it that way automatically, without thinking, accommodating his need because it cost nothing and mattered to him. Find anything? Yes. Dominic turned the laptop, pointed to a spreadsheet that looked like the Matrix met a tax return. Your ex-partner maintained administrative access to your banking portal after dissolution. He's been executing wire transfers using a secondary authentication token that should have been revoked 6 months ago. Natalie's world tilted. Griffin. Griffin Hayes, yes. The transfers are small, structured to avoid fraud detection triggers, but consistent, every 2 weeks. 42,500 accumulated over 3 months. Where's the money going? Shell corporations, 3 layers deep, Delaware registration, designed to obscure the ultimate recipient. Can you trace it? Dominic looked at her, really looked, and for the first time she saw something that looked like respect. Yes, but it takes time, and the bank won't care about destination. They only care unauthorized transfers occurred from your account. So I'm still screwed. Not necessarily. He pulled up another screen. You need to prove the IP origin didn't come from your network. I can do that, but I need access to your business router, your laptop, any device you use managing accounts. Natalie pulled her ancient laptop from under the counter, handed it, watched him plug it in, watched code scroll across his screen. This will take several days, he said, possibly 2 weeks. Prepare for that timeline. I have 3 weeks before the bank files for seizure. Then we have adequate margin for error. Adequate margin, like her life was just a math problem with acceptable parameters. But looking at him, at the focused intensity in his dark eyes, at the way his hands moved like conducting surgery instead of auditing spreadsheets, Natalie felt something she hadn't felt in 18 months. Hope, dangerous, fragile. But there, the door chimed. Natalie looked up, saw Griffin Hayes walk in. Her entire body went cold. Griffin looked the same. Early 40s, thinning hair, expensive suit that didn't quite fit. He'd been Thomas's friend first, business partner second, pallbearer at the funeral. The man who'd helped her navigate the legal nightmare after Thomas died. The man who'd been stealing from her for 3 months. Natalie. Griffin's smile was warm, concerned, completely false. Got your text. We need to talk about the bank situation. She hadn't texted him, hadn't responded to messages, which meant he knew about the freeze through other channels, through access he shouldn't have. Dominic stood, closed his laptop, positioned himself between Griffin and the booth. Not threatening, just present, a physical barrier. Griffin's eyes flicked to him, back to Natalie. Who's this financial consultant? Natalie said, voice steadier than she felt. He's helping me understand why $42,000 left my account without authorization. Griffin's expression flickered. Just a second. Fear, calculation. Then the mask slammed back. That's what I came to discuss. There's been a mistake. I can help sort it with the bank. I'm sure you can. Natalie crossed her arms, felt anger building, hot and sharp and 18 months overdue. Since you're the one who made the transfers. That's insane. I don't have access anymore. You maintained a secondary authentication token. Dominic spoke for the first time, flat, factual, devoid of emotion. Delaware corporate registration, shell structure, wire routing patterns designed to avoid fraud detection. You're either dangerously incompetent or deliberately criminal. Neither inspires confidence. Griffin's face went red. Who the hell are you? Someone who reads ledgers better than you hide them. Tension crystallized, sharp enough to cut. Griffin looked at Natalie. You're making a mistake. There are things about the business you don't understand, things Thomas kept from you. Don't. Natalie's voice cracked like a whip. Don't you dare use him to justify this. I'm trying to protect you. By stealing from me, by keeping you out of something always bigger than a bakery. Griffin stepped forward. Dominic moved with him, matching, not touching, just maintaining buffer. Griffin noticed, backed off. You need to drop this. Tell your consultant to stop digging. Sell the bakery to the buyer I have lined up. Take the money and walk away. What buyer, Banu? Does it matter? You're drowning Natalie. I'm throwing a life raft. Take it. Get out of my bakery. Natalie, get out. Griffin stood there, breathing hard and trapped between what he was running from and toward. Then turned, walked to the door, stopped with his hand on the handle. You have no idea what you're involving yourself in, he said quietly. When this goes wrong, don't say I didn't warn you. The door chimed. He was gone. Natalie stood in the middle of her bakery, shaking. Anger drained as fast as it came. Left her hollow, terrified. He's scared, Dominic said. Yeah, we'll join the club. No, he's specifically scared, which means there's a specific threat. Someone he owes. Someone he's paying with your money. Natalie looked at him. This strange man who'd walked into her life 12 hours ago and was currently the only thing between her and collapse. Who are you, really asked. Financial consultants don't talk like that. Don't read people like that. Don't, she gestured at the laptop, the booth, the space he'd occupied between her and Griffin. Don't do any of this. Dominic was quiet, long moment, considering, calculating honesty's cost against partnership's value. Then he said, I'll tell you, but not here, not now. First I finish the audit, confirm what I suspect. Then we'll talk about who I am and why I recognize Griffin Hayes' specific fear pattern. Is it bad? Yes. How bad? Bad enough you should consider his offer. Sell the bakery, take the money, walk away before this becomes more complicated than simple fraud. Natalie looked around the bakery, at the mismatched tables, the industrial ovens, the booth where Thomas used to plan their future. No, this is all I have left of him, of us. I'm not walking away. Dominic studied her, those dark eyes seeing everything, reading her like spreadsheets, precise, analytical, complete. Then we proceed, he said, but understand, once we pull this thread, we may not like what unravels. I stopped caring about liking things 18 months ago. I only care about surviving them. Something shifted in Dominic's expression. Not quite a smile. Understanding, recognition. Two people who'd learned survival wasn't pretty, wasn't noble, was just stubborn refusal to let the world grind you to dust. I'll need 2 weeks, he said. Full system access and more coffee. You can have whatever you need. Dominic nodded, sat back down, opened his laptop, went back to work like the last 10 minutes hadn't happened. Like Griffin's threat was just another variable in the equation he was solving. Natalie returned to the counter, served customers, smiled, functioned. But in the back of her mind, a clock was ticking. 3 weeks until the bank seized assets. 2 weeks until Dominic finished his audit. And somewhere between those deadlines, the truth about Griffin Hayes. About the money, about whatever Thomas had gotten involved in that she didn't understand. She looked at Dominic, bent over his laptop, fingers flying across keyboard, creating order from chaos with focused intensity that felt almost sacred. Natalie Ashford had made a choice in a laundromat at 11 o'clock Tuesday night, accepted help from a stranger, invited precision into her chaos. Now she just had to hope precision could save her, before whatever Griffin was running from caught up to them both. 2 weeks after Dominic first walked into the bakery, everything had changed. Natalie stood at 4:30 in the morning, watching him work in the corner booth. His laptop screen cast blue light across his face. The same face that had become as familiar as the industrial ovens, as necessary as the morning routine. He arrived every day at 5:15, earlier than their original agreement. Said he worked better in absolute silence before the world woke. She'd stopped questioning it, stopped questioning him. The coffee was already brewing. She'd learned the rhythm, the precision that kept him functional, that kept chaos at bay long enough to build something resembling order. Natalie poured his cup, carried it to the booth, set it down without a word. He reached for it without looking up. Muscle memory, trust. She sat across from him. Something she'd started doing in the second week, working beside him instead of just serving, learning to read spreadsheets, understanding the forensic trail he was building. Show me, she said. Dominic turned the laptop, pointed to cascading numbers that would have been gibberish 3 weeks ago. Now she could read them, see the pattern. Griffin's transfers follow a 48-hour cycle, he said. Always Tuesdays and Thursdays, always between 2 and 4 a.m. automated, which means he set up the system and let it run. Where's it going? 3 shell corporations. First layer is Hayes Consulting, LLC, Delaware. Second layer is Meridian Holdings, Cayman Islands. Third layer, he paused, clicked deeper, is where it gets interesting. Natalie leaned forward, saw the name, Serpieri Enterprises. Who's Serpieri? Dominic's jaw tightened, slightly. The only tell the name meant something. A family, like mine. Like mine. 2 words confirming what Natalie had suspected for a week. What she'd Googled late at night when Cora was asleep. What sparse news articles and carefully worded obituaries had told her. Dominic Marcello, 3rd generation, The family that ran legitimate businesses with illegitimate foundations. The kind you didn't cross. The kind Griffin was apparently paying. Your Mafia, Natalie said quietly. Was. Dominic closed the laptop, met her eyes, unflinching. My grandfather built the empire. My father expanded it. I inherited it 3 years ago when he died. I've been trying to dismantle it ever since. Why? Because I watched my father die in federal prison. Because I watched my mother drink herself to death trying to forget what her life became. Because I don't want blood money. I want clean ledgers. He paused. I want out. The honesty was brutal, unvarnished, the kind of truth that costs something to speak aloud. But you're not out yet. No, I have obligations. People who depend on the businesses I run. Employees who don't know they're working for a criminal enterprise. I can't just walk away without destroying their lives. So you're stuck until I can transition everything to legitimate operations. Yes. Natalie absorbed this, recalibrated everything she thought she knew about the man sitting across from her. Griffin's paying the Serpieres, she said. Wide gambling debt would be my guess, or protection, or both. The Serpieres run sports betting operations, high-stakes poker rooms. They're vultures. Once they have hooks in you, you don't get out. And my bakery is his way of paying them. Yes, Natalie felt anger return, hot and sharp. He's been using Thomas's legacy to fund his debts. It appears that way. She stood, walked to the storage room, the place she'd been avoiding for 2 weeks because she knew what she'd find if she looked hard enough. Thomas's old office supplies, boxes shoved in the corner after he died, papers, files, notebooks, his journal. She'd found it 3 days ago, leather-bound, worn at the edges, his handwriting cramped and anxious in later entries. She'd read it once, closed it, hadn't opened it since. Now she pulled it from the shelf, carried it back to the booth, set it in front of Dominic. Read the last month, she said. I need you to see it. Need someone else to confirm I'm not imagining things. Dominic opened the journal, started reading, expression unchanged, but his hands gripped the book, edges tighter. A tell. The final entries were a dissent. Thomas writing about Griffin's gambling problem, about men who started showing up at the bakery, about pressure to use business accounts for temporary loans. Entry 2 weeks before he died, Griffin says if I don't help him, they'll hurt Natalie, hurt Cora. I can't let that happen, but I can't do what he's asking either. I'm trapped. Final entry, the morning he died. I told Griffin no. He didn't take it well. Said I was signing my own death warrant. I'm scared, but I can't be the man who launders money for criminals. Can't be the father who teaches Cora that survival means compromising everything you believe. If something happens to me, Natalie needs to know. Griffin killed me as surely as if he'd pulled the trigger himself. Dominic closed the journal, set it down carefully, looked at Natalie with an expression holding too much understanding. Too much recognition of grief turned to rage. Your husband didn't have a heart attack, he said quietly. He had stress-induced cardiac arrest. The kind that happens when someone threatens everything you love and backs you into a corner with no escape. Griffin killed him. Indirectly, yes. Natalie's hands shook. She pressed them flat against the table, felt cool metal against her palms. Grounding. I want proof, documentation that holds up in court. That's difficult. Medical examiners rule cause of death, not motive. Then find another way. You said you read patterns. Read this one. Find me proof Griffin Hayes is responsible for Thomas's death. Dominic studied her, seeing the shift. The woman who'd been drowning 2 weeks ago was gone, replaced by someone harder. Someone who'd decided survival wasn't enough anymore. She wanted justice. If we pursue this, he said carefully, it's not just Griffin we're after. It's the Serpieres. They don't let debts go unpaid. Don't let witnesses walk. I don't care. You have a daughter. That landed like a physical blow. Natalie felt rage cool, hardened into something more dangerous. Calculation. Strategy. Then we protect her, she said. We do this smart, careful, but we do it. Dominic nodded slowly. I'll need access to Thomas's life insurance records, his medical files, anything documenting his state of mind in the weeks before he died. I have everything upstairs, in my apartment. Then we start there. They worked through the morning, through breakfast rush, through lunch crowd. Sophie handled the counter. Natalie and Dominic hunched over documents in the booth, building a case from fragments, from pieces Thomas left behind. By 3 o'clock they had it, a timeline. Phone records showing 17 calls from Griffin in the week before Thomas died. Medical records showing elevated blood pressure. Anxiety medication prescribed 2 weeks before the heart attack. The life insurance payout delayed because the company questioned the suddenness. And the policy itself. The clause Natalie had never noticed. The one Thomas added 6 months before he died. In the event of death by cardiac arrest within 12 months, a policy modification beneficiary may request third-party medical investigation to determine contributing factors. Thomas had known, had suspected, had tried to protect her even from the grave. He was documenting it, Dominic said, building evidence. He knew Griffin might kill him. This was his insurance, literally. Natalie felt tears burn, refused to let them fall. Can we use this? In a civil suit, maybe. Criminal prosecution would be harder. But combined with the financial fraud, the coercion pattern, he paused, we can destroy Griffin Hayes. Legally, completely. Do it. The bell chimed. Natalie looked up, saw a man in a cheap suit walk in. Early 50s, tired eyes, badge clipped to his belt. He walked straight to the booth, held out his hand. Mrs. Ashford, I'm Wallace Brennan, First Fidelity Bank. We need to talk. Natalie's blood went cold. If this is about the freeze, it's not. Wallace pulled out a second badge. Federal FBI. I'm here because you're about to step into something bigger than bank fraud. Dominic's posture shifted. Subtle. Preparing. You're investigating the Serpieres. Wallace's eyes flicked to him. Recognition. And you're Dominic Marcello, the one trying to go clean. I know who you are, what you're trying to do. And I'm here to tell Mrs. Ashford that if she exposes Griffin Hayes, she becomes a witness, which makes her a target. I don't care, Natalie said. He killed my husband. Prove it in court and you'll have justice, but you'll also have the Serpieres hunting you and your daughter. Wallace leaned forward. I'm not here to stop you. I'm here to offer protection. FBI witness protection. For you and Cora. Full relocation. New identities. Safety. In exchange for what? Testimony against Griffin, against the Serpieres, against anyone connected to the money laundering operation running through your bakery. Natalie felt the world tilt. My bakery isn't laundering money. Not now, but it was supposed to be. Griffin was setting it up, structuring it to be acquired by a Serpieri shell company. They would have used your legitimate business as a front. When we raided it, you would have been arrested as an accomplice. The words hit like a sledgehammer. I didn't know. I believe you. That's why I'm offering a way out. Testify. Let us build the case and disappear before they retaliate. Natalie looked at Dominic, saw her own conflict reflected in his dark eyes. Safety versus justice. Survival versus truth. I need to think, she said. You have 48 hours. Wallace stood, dropped a business card on the table. After that, we move forward with or without you. And if you're not under federal protection, you're on your own. He left. The bell chimed. The bakery returned to afternoon quiet. But nothing felt quiet anymore. Everything felt like seconds before an explosion. He's right, Dominic said. If you testify, you'll need protection. I can't just disappear. This is my life. Cora's school. Everything. It's not a life if you're dead. Natalie pressed hands against her temples, felt pressure building, weight of too many impossible choices. There has to be another way. There isn't, not against the Serpieres. They don't have codes, don't have boundaries. They'll come after anyone they perceive as a threat. Then what do I do? Dominic was quiet. Long moment. Then he said, you let me handle them. What does that mean? It means I still have connections, people who owe me favors. I can make it clear you're under my protection, that touching you means war with the Marcellos. Your family, the one you're trying to leave. Yes. You'd go back to that for me. Dominic met her eyes, and for the first time she saw something in them that wasn't calculation. Wasn't analysis, something raw and human and terrifying in its intensity. Yes, he said simply. The word hung in the air between them, heavy with implications, with promises neither had spoken aloud but both felt. Natalie reached across the table, placed her hand over his, felt the warmth of his skin, the slight tremor betraying how much this cost him, how much he was offering. I can't ask you to do that, she said quietly. You're not asking, I'm offering. Why bam, bam? Because you're the first thing in 3 years that feels worth protecting. The honesty broke something in Natalie, the careful walls she'd built, the distance she'd maintained. She'd been a widow for 18 months, married to a ghost, loyal to a memory. But Dominic wasn't a memory. He was real, solid. Here. I need air, she whispered. I need to think. She stood, walked to the back door, stepped into the alley behind the bakery. Afternoon sun was too bright, the world too sharp. Everything felt like it was moving too fast and too slow simultaneously. Dominic followed, didn't speak, just stood beside her, maintaining careful distance, respecting her space while offering his presence. Thomas was the only man I ever loved, Natalie said. We were 17 when we met, married at 20. Cora came when I was 30. It was perfect, simple. And then he died and everything fell apart. I know. Do you know what it's like to wake up and remember you're alone, to see your daughter ask why daddy isn't coming home, to rebuild your entire life from wreckage? No, I don't know that specific pain, but I know what it's like to be alone in a room full of people, to have a family and still feel isolated, to want something different so badly you'd burn down everything you've built to have it. Natalie turned to look at him, really look at him. This man who sorted laundry with precision and calculated timelines in his head and spoke like every word cost him something. This man who was offering to go back to the life he was trying to escape. For her. I'm falling for you, she said, and it terrifies me. Good, it should terrify you. I'm dangerous, broken, carrying baggage you shouldn't have to deal with. So am I. You're a widow with a bakery and a beautiful daughter. I'm the son of a crime boss trying to wash blood off ledgers that will never be clean. And right now you're the only person standing between me and complete destruction. Dominic stepped closer, not touching, just closing distance. If you choose this, there's no going back. If you choose me, you're choosing everything that comes with it. The protection, the danger, the weight of a name that means something in circles you never wanted to be part of. I choose the truth. I choose justice for Thomas. And if that means choosing you, Natalie reached up, placed her hand on the side of his face, felt him freeze, then lean into the touch, careful, controlled. Then I choose you. The kiss was inevitable, had been building for 2 weeks, through coffee rituals and shared silences and the gradual erosion of walls they'd both built. His lips were warm, his hands came up to frame her face with a gentleness that contradicted everything else about him. The kiss tasted like coffee and desperation, and the kind of hope that hurt because it asked you to believe in something you'd learned to live without. When they broke apart, Natalie was shaking, not from fear, from the weight of the decision, from knowledge that she just crossed a line she couldn't uncross. We do this my way, she said. Legal, clean, no violence, no mafia tactics. We use the law. The law is slow, and it doesn't protect people like us. Then we make it protect us. We document everything. We build a case so airtight no one can touch us, and we do it together. Dominic searched her face, looking for doubt, for hesitation, finding only determination. Together, he agreed. They went back inside, back to the booth, back to evidence spread across the table. But something had shifted. The partnership had become something more, something that felt like foundation instead of temporary alliance. At 5:30, the bell chimed. Natalie looked up, saw Cora walk in, Mrs. Chen behind her. Cora's backpack bounced as she ran to the counter. Stopped when she saw Dominic in the booth. Hi, Mr. Dom. Cora's smile was bright, uncomplicated, the kind of joy only 8-year-olds could manage. Are you staying for dinner? Dominic glanced at Natalie, question in his dark eyes. If your mother agrees, he said carefully. Natalie felt her heart crack, watching her daughter smile at this man, watching him soften in ways she suspected he rarely allowed, seeing the possibility of something that looked like family. He's staying, Natalie said. They ate upstairs in Natalie's small apartment. Pasta, simple. Cora chattered about school, about math homework, about the book she was reading. Dominic listened with focused attention, asked questions showing he actually cared about answers. After dinner, he helped Cora with fractions, explained ratios with the same precision he used for forensic accounting, made her laugh when he used cookies as visual aids, ate the mistakes together. At 8 o'clock, Natalie put Cora to bed, came back to find Dominic washing dishes. The domesticity of it was jarring. This man who commanded criminal empires, scrubbing plates in her kitchen, drying them with careful precision. You don't have to do that, Natalie said. I prefer contributing. Balance. She stood beside him, took the towel, dried the dishes he washed, fell into easy rhythm. Comfortable. Right. Cora likes you, she said. I like her. She's honest, direct, doesn't play games. She's 8. Most adults could learn from her. Natalie smiled, set down the towel, turned to face him. If we do this, if we expose Griffin and go after the Serpieris, what happens to us? I don't know, but I know what happens if we don't. You lose the bakery. Griffin gets away with killing Thomas. And I spend the rest of my life wondering what I could have built if I'd been brave enough to try. You're the bravest person I've met. I'm the most controlled. There's a difference. Not to me. They stood in the small kitchen. Too close. Not close enough. Weight of everything unsaid pressing down. Knowledge that tomorrow Wallace Brennan would expect an answer. That 48 hours was counting down. That every moment together was borrowed against an uncertain future. Dominic's phone buzzed. He pulled it out, looked at the screen. Expression went carefully blank. I need to go. What's wrong? Family business. Nothing you need to worry about. Don't do that. Don't shut me out. He looked at her, conflict clear in his dark eyes. My uncle, he runs day-to-day operations now. He's calling a meeting. If I don't show it, sends the wrong message. What kind of message? That I'm not committed, that I'm a liability, that he needs to handle me. Handle you how? In ways that don't end well for anyone. Natalie felt ice flood her veins. Then don't go. I have to, but I'll be back tomorrow, 5:15, like always. Promise me. I promise. He left. The apartment felt too empty without him, too quiet. Natalie cleaned the kitchen, checked on Cora, sat on the couch and tried to read the files Wallace had left. Couldn't focus, just kept seeing Dominic's face. The way he'd looked at Cora, the way he'd kissed her in the alley, the way he'd promised to come back. Promises were dangerous things. Thomas had promised forever, and forever had lasted 40 years instead of the 60 they'd planned. At 11 o'clock, Natalie's phone buzzed, unknown number. Stop digging. Sell the bakery to Griffin's buyer. You have 72 hours. This is your only warning. No signature, no threats, just cold certainty. Natalie's hands shook. She took a screenshot, sent it to Wallace Brennan, sent it to Dominic. Waited. Wallace responded first. Pack a bag. FBI protection starts now. I'm sending agents to your location. Dominic's response came 3 minutes later. Don't go anywhere. I'm handling this. 2 messages, 2 paths, safety versus trust. Natalie looked at Cora's closed bedroom door, thought about her daughter sleeping peacefully, unaware that her mother was about to make a choice that would change everything. She texted Wallace. I need more time. She texted Dominic. Be careful. Then she sat in her living room in the dark and waited for morning, waited for answers, waited for the world to either save her or swallow her whole. At 6 a.m., someone knocked on the bakery door. Natalie ran downstairs, unlocked it with shaking hands, expected FBI agents, expected threats, found Dominic, bloodied, bruised, leaning against the doorframe with a split lip and eyes holding too much darkness. What happened? She whispered. I told my uncle I was out, that I was done, that if he touched you or your daughter, I'd burn the entire empire to the ground. He stepped inside, winced. He didn't take it well. Dominic, I need coffee, and I need you to listen very carefully to what happens next. Natalie led him to the booth, made coffee with shaking hands, sat across from him, watched him drink, watched him gather himself, watched him become the controlled, precise man she'd fallen for, even bleeding, even broken. The Serpieris sent the text, he said. Griffin gave them your number, told them you were investigating. They want the bakery, need it for their laundering operation. If you don't sell, they'll escalate. To what? Child services. They have contacts. They'll file reports, anonymous tips. They'll build a base that you're an unfit mother, associate with criminals, unstable environment. And they'll take Cora. The world stopped. Everything narrowed down to those 4 words. They'll take Cora. No. Natalie's voice was raw, feral. No, they can't. I won't let them. You can't fight them alone. Then I'll take Wallace's offer. Witness protection. We disappear. And spend the rest of your life running teaching Cora that survival means abandoning everything you've built. What's the alternative? Dominic leaned forward, took her hands, held them with a grip both gentle and unyielding. We expose them, all of them. Griffin, the Serpieris, everyone. We build the case. We testify. And we do it under my protection. The Marcello name still means something. My uncle may have disowned me, but there are people loyal to me. People who remember my father. People who will shield you if I ask. You'd go to war with your own family. For me, I'd go to war with anyone. For you. The truth of it shattered her, remade her. Natalie looked at this man who'd walked into her life 2 weeks ago and become her foundation, her partner, her choice. We do it your way, she said, but legal. We use Wallace's investigation. We provide evidence and you provide protection until it's over. And after we figure out what comes next. Together. Dominic nodded, pulled out his phone, made a call. Wallace Brennan, this is Dominic Marcello. We're ready to cooperate. Full testimony, full documentation. In exchange, you provide protection for Natalie Ashford and her daughter. And you move fast because in 72 hours the Serpiaris are coming, and I can't hold them off forever. He listened, nodded, hung up, looked at Natalie with eyes holding exhaustion and determination in equal measure. It's done. Wallace is mobilizing. He'll be here in an hour. We give him everything. Thomas's journal, the financial records, the timeline, and he builds the case that brings them all down. What about you? I stay. I protect you. And when this is over, he paused, reached into his pocket, pulled out a small leather notebook, set it on the table between them. When this is over, we build something clean, something that doesn't carry the weight of either of our pasts. Natalie opened the notebook, saw a business plan, Ashford and Marcello Financial Consulting. Legitimate, legal, a future written in careful, precise handwriting. You planned this, she said. I hope for it. There's a difference. She closed the notebook, looked at him. This broken, beautiful man who'd sorted her laundry and calculated her survival and promised to burn down empires to keep her safe. I love you, she said. Simply, truthfully. I don't know how it happened, don't know when, but I do. Dominic's expression cracked. Just for a moment, vulnerability flooding through the careful control. I've never been good at love, never understood it, but I understand precision, and what I feel for you is as precise and absolute as any calculation I've ever made. It wasn't poetry, wasn't romance, it was truth, and truth was better. Natalie leaned across the table, kissed him, tasted coffee and copper, felt him kiss her back with careful intensity. A promise, a vow. When Wallace Brennan arrived an hour later with federal agents and paperwork and promises of protection, Natalie Ashford sat beside Dominic Marcello and told them everything. And somewhere in the telling, between evidence and testimony, between truth and consequences, she understood that falling in love wasn't about choosing safety. It was about choosing someone worth fighting for, worth surviving for, worth separating the chaos for. 3 days after they agreed to cooperate with Wallace Brennan, Natalie stood in the center of First Fidelity Commercial Bank's marble lobby. The vaulted ceilings, the polished wood, the teller stations positioned higher than customer chairs. Architecture as intimidation. She understood that now, but she wasn't intimidated anymore. Dominic stood beside her. Wallace Brennan 3 steps behind. In her hands, a leather portfolio containing everything. The evidence, the timeline, the truth. The receptionist looked up. Recognition flickered across her face. Fear. Mrs. Ashford, do you have an appointment? Tell Mr. Porter we're here. Tell him we have documentation regarding the freeze on account number 4782-9165. Tell him he'll want to see us immediately. The receptionist picked up the phone, spoke in hushed tones, hung up. He'll see you now, 2nd floor, corner office. They took the stairs. Natalie refused to wait for the elevator, refused to give this building one more second of control over her life. Each step was reclamation. Each breath was defiance. James Porter's office was exactly what she expected. Oversized desk, leather chairs, framed certificates declaring his competence. He stood when they entered, smiled like he was greeting valued customers instead of a woman he'd been trying to destroy. Mrs. Ashford, I wasn't expecting. Griffin Hayes has been executing unauthorized wire transfers from my business account for 3 months. Natalie didn't sit, didn't accept the offered handshake, just stood front of his desk and spoke with a clarity that surprised even her. $42,500, routed through 3 shell corporations to Serpieri Enterprises. Your bank failed to flag these transactions, failed to protect my assets, failed to fulfill your fiduciary duty. Porter's smile faltered. Mrs. Ashford, I understand you're upset, but the investigation is ongoing. The investigation is over. Wallace stepped forward, flashed his FBI credentials. Special Agent Wallace Brennan, your bank has been facilitating money laundering operations for the Serpieri crime family. Mrs. Ashford's account was one of dozens compromised. You're looking at federal charges unless you cooperate fully. The color drained from Porter's face. I had no idea. You had every idea. Dominic spoke for the first time. Cold, precise. The voice of someone who understood it exactly how these systems worked. You received notice of Griffin Hayes' partnership dissolution 6 months ago. You failed to revoke his administrative access. That's not negligence. That's complicity. I don't know what you're talking about. Natalie opened the portfolio, pulled out the first document, slid it across the mahogany desk. This is the dissolution agreement, signed by Griffin Hayes, notarized by your branch, dated 6 months ago. Notice the clause requiring immediate termination of all digital access. Porter picked it up, read it, set it down like it burned his fingers. This is the access log. Second document. Griffin's authentication token remained active. 43 logins over 3 months. All between 2 and 4 a.m. All from IP addresses traced to offshore servers. Third document. This is the wire transfer history. Every transaction, every shell corporation, every link in the chain leading directly to Serpieri Enterprises. Fourth document. This is your bank's commercial agreement. Section 4, paragraph B. The institution holds liability for unauthorized electronic fund transfers if the client demonstrates negligence on the part of the institution's security protocols. Natalie placed her hands flat on the desk, leaned forward, met Porter's eyes with a steadiness that came from weeks of building this moment. Brick by brick, document by document, truth by truth. You're going to reverse every fraudulent charge. You're going to lift the freeze on my operating account. You're going to credit my business for operational damages. And you're going to do it in the next hour. Or Agent Brennan files federal charges, and I call every news outlet in the city. The silence in the office was absolute. Porter looked at the documents. At Wallace, at Dominic, at Natalie. Saw no escape, no negotiation, just consequences. I'll need to consult with legal, he stammered. You have 1 hour. Natalie straightened, collected her documents, turned to leave, stopped at the door. Griffin Hayes will be in custody by end of business today. The Serpieris will follow. When the federal investigation goes public, you'll want to be on record as cooperating fully. Consider this your opportunity. She walked out. Dominic and Wallace followed. The elevator doors closed, and only then did Natalie let herself shake. Let the adrenaline crash. Let Dominic's hand find hers and ground her. You were magnificent, he said quietly. I was terrified. Terror and magnificence aren't mutually exclusive. Wallace's phone buzzed. He answered, listened, hung up. Griffin Hayes just walked into his lawyer's office. He's ready to cooperate, wants a deal. Natalie felt something cold and sharp settle in her chest. What kind of deal? Full testimony against the Serpieris. Names, dates, financial records, in exchange for reduced charges on the embezzlement. He doesn't get to walk away from killing Thomas. He won't. But we need his testimony to dismantle the Serpieri operation. If he cooperates, he's looking at 5 years instead of 20. If he doesn't, we might not be able to protect you from retaliation. Natalie looked at Dominic, saw her own conflict reflected in his dark eyes. Justice versus safety. Revenge versus survival. Take the deal, she said. The words tasted like ash. But I want to be there when he signs it. I want him to look at me and know exactly what he destroyed. The federal building was colder than the bank. Harsher. The kind of place where lies went to die under fluorescent lights and recording equipment. Griffin Hayes sat in interview room 3. His expensive suit looked wrong on him now, like costume jewelry, trying too hard. His lawyer sat beside him, young, competent, already negotiating terms before Natalie walked through the door. Griffin looked up when she entered. Something cracked in his expression. Guilt, shame, remnants of friendship betrayed. Natalie, I'm sorry, I never wanted... Don't. Her voice cut like glass. Don't apologize. Don't explain. Just tell them the truth about Thomas. Griffin's hands shook. He clasped them together on the table. I was in deep. Gambling, sports betting, poker. The Serpieris owned me, $200,000 in debt. They said they'd kill me if I didn't pay. So you used my husband's business. I asked him for help, just a loan, temporary. He said no, said it was wrong, that he couldn't be part of it. Griffin's voice broke. The Serpiaris didn't accept no. They sent people, threatened his family, threatened you, threatened Cora. Tom was terrified, couldn't sleep, couldn't eat. I watched him fall apart. And you did nothing. I tried to convince him it was the only way, that we could fix it later, make it right, but he wouldn't budge. The morning he died, I just told him the Serpiaris were done waiting, that they'd hurt you if he didn't cooperate. He grabbed his chest, started hyperventilating. I called 911, but Griffin looked away. He was dead before the ambulance arrived. Natalie felt tears burn, refused to let them fall. Not here, not front of him. You killed him. I know. Say it out loud for the record. Griffin looked at the recording equipment, at his lawyer, at the federal agents watching through one-way glass. I caused Thomas Ashford's death through extreme emotional duress and coercion. My actions directly led to his fatal cardiac arrest. The words hung in sterile air. Confession, admission. Too late to bring Thomas back, but enough to nail the coffin shut on everything Griffin had been. Wallace leaned forward. In exchange for this testimony and full cooperation regarding Serpieri operations, the government is prepared to offer. No deals until he answers one more question. Natalie cut him off, looked at Griffin. Why my bakery? There are hundreds of small businesses. Why target the one Thomas built? Griffin's laugh was broken. Bitter. Because it was clean. Because Tom was honest. Because the Serpieris wanted a legitimate front that wouldn't raise suspicion. Your bakery was perfect. Good reputation. Community ties. No history of problems. They were going to buy it through a shell company. Use it to launder money from their betting operations. When Tom refused, they needed him gone. And they needed you desperate enough to sell. Except I didn't sell. No, you didn't, and now we're here. Natalie stood, looked down at the man who'd been her husband's best friend, who'd stood at his funeral and lied to her face, who'd stolen from her and threatened her and destroyed everything Thomas had built. 5 years isn't enough, she said, but watching you live with what you've done, that'll be worse than any prison. She walked out, left Griffin to his lawyers and his deals and his consequences. Dominic was waiting in the hallway, caught her when her knees buckled, held her while she shook with silent sobs, anchored her until she could breathe again. It's over, he whispered against her hair. The hard part is over. But it wasn't, not yet. Wallace found them in the parking garage. His expression was grim, professional, the look of a man about to deliver news no one wanted to hear. The Serpieris moved faster than expected, he said without preamble. Child Protective Services received an anonymous tip this morning about Cora, about you associating with known criminals, providing an unstable environment. The world stopped. No. They're opening an investigation. Could take custody as early as tomorrow. Wallace promised protection. This is legal system manipulation. They filed before the arrests. Before we had evidence, they were retaliating. It looks legitimate. Natalie felt panic rise, felt walls close in, felt everything she'd fought for start to crumble. What do? We get ahead of it. We get ahead. We file our own petition. Show you're a fit parent, that the association with Dominic is professional, that everything is legitimate. We bury them in documentation. Will it work? I don't know, but it's all we have. Natalie pulled out her phone. She called Mrs. Chen. Keep Cora home from school tomorrow. Don't let anyone take her. I don't care if they have badges. You call me first. What's wrong? Everything. Just keep her safe. She hung up, looked at Dominic, this man who'd promised to protect her, who'd given up everything, who was watching her daughter become collateral damage in a war he'd started. This is my fault, he said quietly. If I hadn't... Stop. We made this choice together, and we'll fight it together. The call came at 6 a.m. the next morning. Wallace, Mom, we executed the warrants, 17 arrests, including the Serpieri leadership. It's over. What about CPS? Natalie asked. Working on it. We're providing evidence that the tip was retaliatory, part of a criminal harassment campaign. It'll take time, but we'll clear it. How much time? Could be days, could be weeks. Not good enough. Not when Cora was at risk. Natalie got dressed, drove to the bakery, found Sophie opening up. Mrs. A, you're back. Is everything okay? I need you to run things today. Can you do that? Of course. Where are you going? To fix everything. Natalie drove to the CPS office, walked in without an appointment, demanded to speak to whoever was handling Cora's case. The social worker was young, tired, carrying too many files and not enough hope. Her name was Rebecca Martinez. She looked at Natalie with sympathy that felt worse than judgment. Mrs. Ashford, I understand you're upset. My daughter is not in danger. The tip you received was retaliation from a criminal organization. The FBI can verify. I'm sure that's true, but procedure requires investigation, especially given your recent association with Dominic Marcello. He's my business partner. Legitimate. Legal. Natalie opened her bag, pulled out documentation, Cora's school records, perfect attendance, honor roll, teacher recommendations, medical records showing regular checkups, dental care, everything. Bank statements, character references, letters from Mrs. Chen, from Sophie, from Cora's teachers, from customers, from everyone who knew them. She set it all on Rebecca's desk. A mountain of evidence, of proof, of the life she'd built from wreckage. I know how this looks, Natalie said. Single mother, recent widow. But looks aren't truth. And the truth is that I have given everything to keep my daughter safe, to keep her world stable, to be the parent she deserves. Rebecca looked at the documentation, at Natalie, at the desperation and determination written in every line of her face. I believe you, she said quietly, but I still have to complete the investigation. Protocol. How long? Two weeks minimum. And in the meantime, I'll note that the child appears safe in current placement. No immediate removal necessary, but I'll need to do home visits, interviews with Cora, verification of everything you've shown me. It wasn't perfect, but it was enough to keep Cora home, enough to buy time. Natalie left the CPS office, sat in her car, let herself shake, let the fear catch up to the adrenaline. Her phone rang. Dominic. Where are you? He asked, handling it. Natalie, I'm okay. CPS is investigating, but Cora's safe. 2 weeks. We have 2 weeks to prove everything. Silence. Then, come back to the bakery. There's something you need to see. The bakery was full when Natalie arrived, not with customers, with people. Mrs. Chen, Sophie, Cora's teachers, regular customers. The mailman who always asked about the sourdough. The woman who came every Friday for coffee and quiet. They'd brought food, coffee, casseroles. Support that didn't ask questions, just showed up. In the corner booth, Cora sat with Dominic, working on homework, safe, happy, unaware of how close the world had come to taking her away. What is this? Natalie whispered. Mrs. Chen hugged her. This is community. You've been feeding us, teaching our kids fractions, providing jobs, making this neighborhood better. Now we return the favor. One by one, they handed Natalie envelopes. Character references. Offers to testify to her fitness as a parent. Documentation of every good thing she'd done, every life she'd touched. By the end of the afternoon, she had 30 letters, 30 voices saying the same thing. Natalie Ashford was a good mother, a good person, deserving of the life she'd built. When everyone left, when the bakery was quiet again, Natalie sat in the booth across from Dominic and Cora, looked at the stack of letters, at the evidence of love she hadn't known existed. You did this, she asked Dominic. I made phone calls. They showed up because they wanted to. Cora looked up from her homework. Mr. Dom says we're building something important. Is that true, Mommy? Natalie felt tears burn, nodded. Yes, sweetheart. We're building something very important. Can I help? You already are, just by being here, by being you. Cora smiled, went back to her fractions, unconcerned, trusting that her mother would keep the world safe. And watching her, Natalie understood something fundamental. She'd been so focused on survival, on fighting, on protecting what she had left. She'd forgotten about building, about community, about the fact that strength didn't come from standing alone. It came from standing together. Thank you, she said to Dominic. For what? For reminding me I'm not alone. He reached across the table, took her hand. You were never alone. You just couldn't see it yet. 12 days into the CPS investigation, Rebecca Martinez called Natalie. I'm closing the case. No evidence of unfit parenting, no credible concerns. Cora stays with you. The relief was physical. Natalie sat down hard, let herself cry, let Dominic hold her while she shook with the force of it. It's over, he whispered. It's really over. Almost. That evening in Natalie's apartment, with Cora asleep in the next room, Dominic pulled out a small velvet box, set it on the table between them. "I have nothing to offer you," he said quietly. "No family, no fortune, no legacy, just precision and loyalty." Natalie opened the box. Inside was a simple silver band. Elegant, understated, perfect. "I'm not asking you to marry me," Dominic continued. "Not yet. Not until I've proven I can be the partner you deserve. But I'm asking if you'll consider it. If you'll let me keep building this life with you, day by day." Natalie looked at the ring, at this man who'd walked into her life 6 weeks ago and become her foundation, who'd sacrificed everything, who'd chosen her over empire, over family, over safety. "Ask me again in 6 months," she said. "When we've survived this, when we've proven we can build something that lasts. Ask me then, and I'll say yes." Dominic closed the box, nodded. 6 months. Promise. I promise. 6 months later, the laundromat was exactly as Natalie remembered. Fluorescent lights, cracked linoleum, the hum of industrial washing machines creating white noise against the world. She sat in the same plastic chair. Same time, 10:47 on a Tuesday night. But everything else was different. Cora was at home with Mrs. Chen, safe, happy, thriving in a life that had stabilized into something beautiful. The bakery was renamed Ashford and Marcello Artisan Bakery. Partnership, equality. The nonprofit operated from the back office. 23 people had used the Thomas Ashford Memorial Fund to leave criminal organizations. 23 lives rebuilt. And Dominic sat beside her, sorting their laundry with the same precision. But now she knew why. Understood that control was survival. That order was safety. "How much longer?" she asked. He checked his watch. 14 minutes on the delicates, 32 on the towels, 12:15 completion time. "You're still calculating timelines. Some things don't change." "Good, I like that about you." He looked at her, really looked at her, and in his dark eyes she saw everything they'd survived, everything they'd built, everything they were still becoming. 6 months, he said. "Yes. I made you a promise." "I remember." Dominic stood, pulled the velvet box from his pocket, opened it. The silver band caught the fluorescent light. Simple. Perfect. Theirs. He didn't kneel, didn't make a speech, just held out the ring and said, "Marry me. Help me separate the chaos. Build the order. Be the precision in my life." Natalie smiled, took the ring, slid it onto her finger. "Yes. Yes, yes, to all of it. The quesos, the order, the precision, the life we're building. Yes." He kissed her then, in a laundromat at 10:50 on a Tuesday night, surrounded by washing machines and strangers who didn't care. And it felt like coming home, like finding the thing you didn't know you were looking for until it was right in front of you. When they broke apart, Cora's pink sock was tangled in the dark load. Dominic pulled it out automatically, set it with the delicates, maintaining order, creating structure from chaos. "We're going to need a bigger place," Natalie said. "The apartment is too small." "I know, I've been looking." "Of course you have. I found one, 3 bedrooms, walking distance to the bakery, good school district, within budget. You've already calculated the mortgage payments, and the property taxes, and the maintenance costs, and the estimated utility expenses." Natalie laughed, actually laughed, the sound echoing off the industrial machines. "You're impossible. I'm precise. You're perfect. I'm yours." The washing machines cycled, the timers counted down, and Natalie Ashford sat in the place where everything had started, where she'd been drowning, where a stranger had helped her separate the chaos, where precision had saved her. She looked at the ring on her finger, at the man beside her, at the laundry that was almost done, at the life waiting for them outside these fluorescent walls. "I'll me home," she said. "Where's home?" "Anywhere you are." Dominic smiled, rare, precious, the kind of expression that meant everything because he gave it so sparingly. "Then home is wherever we build it." They finished the laundry, folded everything with care, loaded it into the car, drove through the dark streets to a future neither of them had planned, but both of them had chosen. And somewhere between the laundromat and home, between chaos and order, between what was lost and what was found, Natalie understood the truth. Love wasn't about perfect circumstances, wasn't about safety or certainty or knowing how the story ended. Love was about finding someone worth sorting laundry with, worth building foundations with, worth choosing every single day even when the world made it hard. Thomas had been her first love, her forever love, the foundation of who she'd become. Dominic was her second chance, her chosen love, the proof that you could survive the word and still find something worth fighting for. She didn't have to choose between them. Thomas had taught her how to love. Dominic was teaching her how to live. And both were gifts. Both were necessary. Both were hers to keep. She reached over, found Dominic's hand, intertwined their fingers. I love you, she said. I love you too. Precisely, absolutely, without variation. And in a life built on uncertainty, that was the only truth that mattered. Home was where they separated the chaos together. And they were finally beautifully precisely home.